If you're a parent of an adult prodigal child, I have a question for you. What happens inside of you when your phone rings and you see your adult child's name on the screen? If you're anything like I used to be, your mind starts to race before you even answer. And you're thinking, what's wrong now? What happened this time? Is everything okay? Your heart starts to beat a little faster and your chest probably tightens, right? And then, before you've even heard one word, you're already preparing yourself for the bad news. Can anybody out there relate? If so, today I want to talk about something I don't hear discussed too often, but I honestly believe it's one of the most important lessons that a prodigal parent can learn. Just because your adult child is crashing out does not mean you should. Now, I know that it's easier said than done because when it's your son, when it's your daughter, when they call and tell you they've lost another job, or they've gotten themselves into financial trouble, or they made another bad decision that breaks your heart, every part of you wants to jump in the storm with them, right? I understand that because I've been there. There was a time when every crisis my son had became my problem in crisis too, right? If he was overwhelmed, I was overwhelmed. If his life felt out of control, mine felt out of control. And one day, God showed me something that changed the way I looked at this journey. If every time your adult child has a crisis, you have a crisis too, now there are two people overwhelmed instead of one. Somebody has to remain steady. Let that someone be you. Now, before we go any further, I want to make sure you hear me, hear my heart. I'm not telling you not to care or to ignore your child. I'm not telling you to become cold or distant. I'm talking about learning to care deeply, but without collapsing emotionally every time something goes wrong, because those are not the same thing. Somewhere along the way, many of us begin believing that worry proves our love. If I'm not worried, maybe I don't care enough. But it's simply not true. Love and panic are not the same thing. You can love your child with your whole heart and still respond with wisdom instead of fear. Let me coach you for just a minute. What does your crash out look like? Maybe your child tells you something upsetting and you replay the conversation all night long. Or maybe you can't concentrate at work the next day. Maybe you start imagining every possible worst case scenario. Maybe you check your phone every few minutes, hoping they call, or afraid they already have and you missed it, right? Maybe your peace rises and falls based on how they're doing. If they're okay, you're okay. If they're struggling, your whole day unravels, right? Without even realizing it, you stopped living your own life. You started emotionally living theirs. And friend, that's a weight God never asked you to carry. Yes, He called you to love your child, He called you to pray for them and to encourage them with wisdom. But He never asked you to carry every burden as though their future depended entirely on you. No, one of the biggest mindset shifts that God has given me came through one simple question. And I want to share it with you because it has helped me more times than I can count. So, the next time upsetting news come, I want you to pause And then ask yourself, is this an emergency or is this information? Okay? That one question can slow everything down. For instance, let's say your child calls and says, Mom or Dad, I just lost my job. Okay, your heart immediately wants to jump into action, right? No, pause. Think, is this an emergency or is this information? Maybe they aren't just, maybe they're not asking you to fix it. Maybe they're simply telling you what happened, right? Okay. Maybe let's say they was in a relationship that you knew was doomed from the start, right? And they call you with bad news about this relationship or it ended, again. I know your heart hurts for them, but just listen. You can listen, you can care, and you can pray, but not every painful situation requires you to rescue them. Sometimes your role is simply to listen well. Or maybe they call after an argument with someone. Can you encourage them? Yeah. Can you remind them that God is still faithful? Yes. But you don't have to absorb their emotional chaos until you become chaotic too. Now, let me say this. There are genuine emergencies, medical emergencies, immediate danger, situations that require action, right? Remaining steady doesn't mean doing nothing. It means that even when action is necessary, you respond thoughtfully instead of reacting from panic, because panic clouds judgment, but wisdom brings clarity. Have you ever noticed how quickly our minds can race ahead? We hear a sentence and suddenly we've written the next 50, right? Or we imagine outcomes that haven't even happened yet. We convince ourselves we already know how this story ends. Fear has a way of doing that. So instead, slow the moment down. Pray, gather the facts. Then ask, what if anything is mine to do right now? That question has brought me so much peace because sometimes the answer is to pray. Sometimes it's to just listen. Sometimes it's to encourage. Sometimes it's to step in and help. But every situation doesn't require the same response. Your child doesn't need you to panic faster than they do. They need someone who can think clearly, someone who listens before speaking, who doesn't make the situation bigger than it already is. They need someone who reminds them that one bad decision doesn't erase God's ability to redeem a life. Your calm presence speaks louder than you may realize, right? It says we're going to take this one step at a time. I want to remind you that remaining steady doesn't mean pretending that everything's okay. You may still cry. You may still have moments when your heart aches, and God welcomes every one of those emotions. The difference is you're taking those emotions to Him instead of allowing those emotions to control you. Scripture says in Isaiah 26:3, you will keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on you because he trusts in you. I love that because it reminds me that my focus doesn't have to stay on every crisis. My focus stays on the God who already sees what I cannot. So the next time your phone rings, pause, and before you react, Pause. Ask yourself, is this an emergency or is this information? Then pray before you respond. Let me say that again. Pray before you respond. Gather the facts. Then choose wisdom instead of panic. I want to leave you with these two thoughts. Just because your adult child is having a crisis doesn't mean your entire household has to become one. And someone has to be the steady one. Let that someone be you. Your steadiness doesn't mean you love your child any less. It means you've chosen to love them from a place of peace instead of fear. And from that place, you'll be far more prepared to encourage them and pray for them and support them wisely. And trust God with the parts of their story that were never yours to carry.